Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. We have some mini set news to just talk about and some cards to talk about as well. Mini set is coming next Wednesday, May 31st. 38 new cards, 4 legendaries, 1 epic, 17 rare cards and 16 common cards. Now, the special thing about this mini set is they're bringing back dual class cards. So even though there's only going to be 38 new cards in total, well, multiple classes will have access to those cards because of the dual class mechanic. So it kind of feels a bit bigger than a mini set this time, in my opinion. We can go ahead and take a look at some of the new cards in a second. You can buy the whole mini set at $15 or 2k gold. If you don't want to do that and you just want to open packs still, you can still get mini set cards in your Festival of Legends packs once it's been released. Alright, we have the first card, and it's introducing a new mechanic for this mini set, Remixed. So this is a remixed musician, 3 mana, 3/3 rush, gain an extra effect in your hand that changes each turn. So this is the remixed. It's not really a keyword, but it's an effect. Basically, this is a random chance when you draw it to be any of these 4, and each turn it will change into a different one of these. So we have Rush Divine Shield, Rush Wind Fury, Rush Lifesteal, and Rush Poisonous. So they're all kind of reasonable. Rush Divine Shield kind of strikes out as perhaps the most useful one on curve. Later on, Rush Poisonous might be a bit more useful. But they're all fairly similar power level and all fairly okay as keywords for this kind of effect. We've seen in the past 3 mana, 3/3 rush with extra effects not been constructed viable. This might also fall into that category where you don't want to play it. But I think this is on the upper end of it might be playable in some decks. Something like Blood Decay, for instance, might want to consider a card like this because just decent removal. Decent tempo. But I think it's more of like a card to introduce the mechanic, and then the class cards maybe it will be a bit more powerful, but it's certainly an okay effect. Now, it's random which one you get. They don't cycle in an order. So I believe you can get the Divine Shield one, next turn it turns into, say, the Wind Fury, and then it could actually turn back into the Divine Shield and you won't see the other two. The only thing is I don't think it can change into the one it already is. Next, we've got another neutral, Speaker Stomper. This is a 4 mana 4/4. Tradable Battlecry enemy spells cost 2 more next turn. So kind of like a tradable Lotheb. Certainly looks very, very powerful. Obviously not having the spells cost quite as much as Lotheb did, but maybe 2 is enough to prevent the opponent playing them when it comes to big board clears. With Cult Neophyte, it didn't always prevent things coming down because perhaps it was off curve, the board clear that they were using, but this being 2 more might do enough. The kind of deck that you want to run this in would be a fairly aggressive deck, or a deck that cares about making a board and sticking it. But being 4 mana, it kind of takes up a lot of your turn, so it's hard to like make a board and play this on the same turn. Main AoEs and things that you want to be avoiding are things like Priest, Blood Decay, Frost Decay as well, where this could be useful. Prevent like Blood Boil, prevent Whirlpool, prevent Frostworm's Fury. More expensive than Neophyte. Slightly bigger effect, maybe worse stat line, and more expensive. It does come with tradable, but the kind of decks that this wants to go in probably don't want to be spending mana on trading because they're likely to be aggressive decks. And it's a bit too expensive to put into a combo-y deck like Miracle Rogue when they probably just go for Neophyte instead, which is a much cheaper way of doing it. So I don't actually think this is like super strong. It doesn't have a tribe either, so you can't really fit into Menagerie decks. which are generally quite aggressive. So I kind of think this might not see any play at all. We've seen it also in the past, from mini sets mainly, these 4-mana cards that disrupt the opponent's turn, and they look good on paper. Carney wasn't from a mini set, I don't think. Maybe he was. I remember quite well. Similar kind of effect, disruption on a 4-mana body. He's been the most playable out of them, but doesn't see too much player nowadays. But there's also things like Coilfang Constrictor, which looked pretty decent on paper, but just hasn't really seen any play. Kind of reminds me a bit of that. Tradable does make it more flexible, and blocking all spells maybe is a little bit stronger. But there are a lot of minion-based decks where this just wouldn't do anything at all against, and I don't think it's that strong. Really meta-dependent, though. Next we have Grimtotem buzzkill. Grimtotem buzzkill, sorry. 4-mana 5/4 battlecry, discard a weapon to draw 3 cards. So this is a lot of fuel for a deck that runs a lot of weapons, obviously. Card draw effects around this cost. You're looking at 5 mana for draw, Famished Falls, Warlock Ravager, and then maybe like in Demon Hunter they have access to Sightless Magistrate for kind of a similar effect. But things like Hunter, which has a lot of weapons, don't have this card draw, and they don't really want to be running Famished Fall particularly, or they don't have good Murlocs for Gorlock. So for a deck like Hunter, which can run a fair few weapons, this might be quite good. You could also consider Warrior. They're getting a new weapon in the mini set that we'll talk about soon, but they have some weapon synergy anyway, and they could do with some card draw. But this doesn't have a tribe, so it doesn't really fit into Menagerie Star Warriors. So I don't know. You could see it in Hunter particularly. Maybe Demon Hunter as well. Demon Hunter has access to a lot of weapons, but Demon Hunter might actually just have better card draw effects than this. Definitely in Hunter though, and I think it's quite good in Hunter. 4-mana 5/4 that effectively draws 2. But if you're in a very weapon-heavy deck, if you already have a weapon up, a weapon in your hand isn't very useful as a card. It may as well not be there. So discarding it to draw some cards is very, very nice. I think it's just a good card. Good aggressive stat line, comes down on 4 for a lot of value. And I think this is like the magic number. Like turn 5 Famished Fall and things tend to be a bit too late, particularly because you have to infuse it first, which is not always too easy. But turn 4, you don't really have to have any real requirement other than having a weapon in your hand, which might be easy enough to do. You can also run the Weapon Tutor card if you really want to get this effect going. Trying to remember the name of it. This one, Instrument Tech. Battlecry, draw a weapon. So if you're running a weapon-heavy deck, that card's always going to draw a card, and it will activate this card as well. I think it's generally quite a decent option for some specific decks, but it's not going to see a wide amount of play. But I think in the decks that it does, it will be pretty good. Just a lot of value. Next up, we've got more card draw in the form of Maga, Bane of Music. 5-mana 5/5. Draw 5 cards. Give any spells drawn to your opponent. Draw 5 on a 5/5 is a huge amount of draw. Already talked a little bit in the previous card about Famished Fall and Gorlock Ravager. These are the options really for your 5-drops that draw. Gorlock can only draw Murlocs, and the stat line's a bit meh for a 5-drop. Famished Fall, you have to infuse it, which isn't super easy for a lot of decks, and the attack is a bit low. Only draws 3 as well for both those cards. This draws up up to 5 if you're running a very minion-heavy deck, and a 5/5. So it's quite a sizable upgrade on those cards. You do need to be running quite a minion-heavy deck, but you don't have to be running only minions for this to work. Something like Unholy Decay really only runs Plague Strike and Grave Strength for their spells, so they could easily slot this card in and be kind of okay with it. Now, giving your opponent your Grave Strength or your Plague Strike is not very, very good. That does suck quite a lot, particularly the Plague Strike. They might give your opponent a really high tempo play back to you. And losing Grave Strength obviously means maybe you don't have your finisher anymore. But the upside might just be worth it. The fact that you're getting, 5/5 for 5 is just fine stats. And draw 5, like you just get so much gas. And I think if you just run this card and no other card draw effects in very minion heavy decks like Menagerie decks and things, I think that's all you need. And you're just not going to gas out. Is that a good deck though? Very minion heavy based decks? Well, you could look at Mech Paladin. This is like the easiest example I can give. Mech Paladin has a card that draws 5 in Radar Detector. It pretty much always draws 5. And the deck's not like super powerful. 5 mana 5/5 versus a 2 mana spell. Could argue one's stronger than the other. But the kind of deck that's made from it is like quite rigid, doesn't have comeback tools, and just if it's ahead against a slow deck, it does well. But if it's against an aggressive deck that gets ahead on board against them, the deck kind of just doesn't have the capacity to come back. So maybe meta dependent whether a deck that would be able to run this would be a good deck or not. But certainly going to be stronger than Famishful and Gorlock Ravager, I think, within Menagerie archetypes and decks with very few spells in them. So I think it'll see a little bit of play, but I don't think it's going to be crazy good. Next, we got Elite Tauren Champion. The 5 mana 5/5 finale starts a rock duel. Players must spend all their mana each turn or else they take 8 or more damage. Now, this looks very confusing on first glance, but I can explain it a bit. So when you finale this card, you give your opponent this spell. It's a bit hard to read, but at the end of the turn, explode for 8 damage, or spend all your mana to give this to the opponent with +2 damage. So you basically give your opponent this card, and if they don't spend their mana, they take the 8. If they do spend the mana, this card gets sent back to you, only it deals 10. And then if you don't spend your mana, you're going to take 10. But if you do spend your mana, you're going to send it back again. And it's going to go up +2 to deal 12. So a game of hot potato between you and your opponent. Who can not spend their mana first and take the Pyroblast Plus from this card? I kind of joke that this is a bad card because it forces your opponent to play well. And that you want to spend all your mana every turn. Does this have any actual applications in a deck? I think when you look at this, you're kind of thinking, well, I play this in an aggro deck, right? Because I want to deal damage to my opponent's face. But I don't think it's going to work too well in an aggro deck, because you're playing, say, an aggro deck against control. Well, you're likely to run out of resources before they are. It's not too hard to spend all your mana as a control deck if you've got more expensive things. When it becomes hard to spend your mana is when you run out of resources in Hearthstone, so that's more likely to happen as the aggro deck. So maybe you play a bit of hot potato with your control opponent, clear your board, etc, etc. And then eventually you're going to be the one who runs out of gas, most likely. And then you're just going to be taking the damage to yourself. And on top of that, you're playing a 5 mana 5/5 on curve that doesn't actually do anything for the board state until your opponent can't spend their mana. So I think not a good aggro tool. Maybe in a slower deck. But the thing is, if you're playing a slower deck against a deck that runs out of stuff, well, you're probably in a winning position anyway. just because they've run out of stuff and you've kind of achieved your attrition win condition. So doesn't really fit in those kind of decks. One thing that I saw which was kind of interesting is a combo in Warlock. Don't know if this is a good thing, but it combos nicely with Commander Ulthok. So the idea being you've played your Elite Tauren champion, so you started the hot potato game between you and your opponent, and then at some point, once the potato gets hot enough to kill your opponent, you slam down the Ulthok, and then you say, go to your opponent. And it's actually impossible for your opponent to spend their mana because it costs health instead of mana. So they're always going to take the damage from the hot potato, no matter what they do. And if they start spending cards, well, they're going to take even more damage. So unless they literally kill you before the end of their turn, they put them in an awkward position where they're going to take a lot of damage guaranteed, and if they start playing cards, well, maybe they're taking way too much damage, and they just get lethaled. So, kind of interesting combo. This card's been completely trash up until this point. It might still be completely trash, but it's certainly an interesting combo. Kind of memey. You could argue that there's counterplay in that. If you play this card and your opponent knows what you're up to, they're just gonna take the 8 immediately before it gets too big. So they don't end up taking like 16 or something down the line. So yeah. But certainly a cool card. I don't imagine it's gonna be particularly good, but it's kind of funny. And this combo might be its best shot of seeing play. Alright, we got some class cards now. We got Remix Tuning Fork. This is another remix card for Warrior, a weapon. 2-mana 2/2 baseline, and it gains effects. First one, Battlecry gain 2+2 attack. So it turns it into a 4/2 weapon. It's not just for this turn, it's just 4/2 over both swings. So better Fiery War Axe. We've got Battlecry gain 5 armor. We've got also damages minions adjacent to whoever your hero attacks. And we have Battlecry discover a taunt minion. So varying uses for these. The +2 attack one's probably generally just always fairly useful. Gain 5 armor if you're playing a slower warrior deck, or you have this on curve. This is actually pretty good, I think. If you're against an aggressive deck, you're going to play this, kill their early board, and gain armor. It's going to be a big swing. I heard a lot of people saying this one's bad, but I think it's actually pretty decent. I think this one is actually the worst on average, just because there's going to be so many board states where your opponent just has only one minion, particularly if you're using a weapon to remove it. They're not going to be spread super wide where this is going to get a lot of value most of the time, at least on curve. And they got Discover a Taunt minion. This one's like okay, a bit of extra value, but the weapon you start with is like a 2-mana 2/2 weapon, which is not always going to kill some stuff. So varying degrees of usefulness these options, but Warrior has been lacking a good early game weapon for some decks. They do have the Enraged weapon, but doesn't fit every archetype, that one. So this one might be able to fill a hole, particularly with some of their next cards, such as Abyssal Bassist, which 7-mana 4/7 demon. Taunt life still costs 2 less for each weapon you've equipped this game. So this cares a lot about equipping weapons. So if you want to make use of this, you kind of need to play the previous weapon as well. This is also a Demon Hunter card and a demon. This one's really quite good, I think. It's a taunt, has taunt synergies in Warrior. Warrior has Sword Eater as well, so they can discount it through that. Pretty reasonable to have played 2 weapons before playing this, so it's suddenly 3 mana. And in the Menagerie archetype, it's got extra use, in that it's a demon. Now, there aren't any specific neutral demons in the game right now. These are the only neutrals that are considered demons. So, when you play Amalgam of the Deep on this card as a warrior, you're only going to be offered one Amalgam Band, Mistake, and another copy of this, which is really quite strong. Mistake you're probably not picking too often, let's be fair, but getting another option of this for immediate tempo, or the value of just extra one Amalgam Bands, just means you've got a lot of gas going forward for the Menagerie style archetype. And that's going to be really, really strong. Particularly if you've like discounted this once or twice, or even 3 times. Amalgaming this and slamming down another one, very, very strong. Warrior has also access to Black Rock and Roll. It's kind of decent thing to be buffed with Lifesteal. Also have access to Last Stand to double its stats. So yeah, looks quite good in Warrior. In Demon Hunter, it is a demon, so you don't really want this in the big demon archetype, particularly because it's just a bit weaker than some of the other ones you can cheat out. Other archetypes, there's not really one that wants to be playing a lot of weapons all the time. So I think it's a bit more of a home in Warrior right now, specifically Menagerie Warrior. I think it's going to be pretty decent. Even just discounting it once. Turn 5, you plop down a 4/7 Lifesteal Demon. That's going to be pretty decent against aggro decks. At the very least. Next up, we have Through Fell and Flames. This is also Warrior and Demon Hunter. Give a minion rush, finale, and +1/+1. So, if you have a lot of card draw, this is quite a high tempo play. Just immediately +1/+1 on your minion and give it rush to trade into something. It's really quite strong. Really good targets for this. Obviously, the big one is Lady Sterno. Make this a 3/5 with rush, and it gets to attack immediately. This plus this alone kind of swings like any early board state, because you're going to get a 3/5 that immediately attacks the lowest health enemy, which will be a minion. And then you give it rush as well, and it still has immune. So you Steno +1 spell for 3 mana, not counting any other spells, is going to be able to kill like 2 early game minions, which is really, really strong. What's more is there's more synergies with this. One, you can discover it from Taste of Chaos, and Taste of Chaos requires Finale anyway, so you discover immediately. Maybe you pick the 0 mana spell and put it on some minion on the board you have straight away, doing some extra clearing. That's great. Another synergy is Steno plus Alveria. Where is she? This one. After a friendly rush minion attacks, give your minions +1 attack. So there is a combo. You play this and Lady Steno. You give Steno rush. It doesn't even need to be finale, mind you. Finale will give her +1/+1. But even without the finale, you give Steno rush and she immediately attacks because you played a 0 mana spell. And then Halveria effect is going to trigger and give all your minions +1 attack, including Steno. And then anytime you play an extra spell, Steno is going to gain another attack. Or your whole board is going to gain another attack. So potentially you can, with this card, just combo with Halveria now instead of like Rowdy Fan. And just do a lot of damage through her that way, and just keep buffing her attack. Every time she attacks, she's going to gain more attack. And it could be quite powerful. As for Warrior, might be some applications in it. One of them, I'm thinking about Acolyte of Pain's not too bad. Acolyte of Pain, give it rush, becomes a 2/4, starts drawing new cards. Kind of a neat little cheeky combo you have with the card straight away. Pretty good. You just generally want to do it with a lot of card draw because it is like a low value card. But if you can recoup the value, you just get a high tempo card instead. Even a Menagerie Warrior I might consider running this card just because they play a lot of minions on curve. And giving them +1/+1 and rush to help secure board control. Kind of nice. Also another nice combo is Warrior. Anima Extractor, pretty decent. 2/4, 2/5, sorry, with that effect. With Rush, kind of decent. Just all round, looks like a solid card. Pretty powerful if you have enough value. And I think Warrior and Demon Hunter actually have a lot of card draw and value available, so I think this will see play in both probably, but it might be a bit stronger in the Demon Hunter. Just because of the Senno interactions. Next we got Yelling Yodeler. 4 mana, 3/4 undead. This is Hunter and Death Knight. Battlecry trigger a friendly minion's death rattle twice. I'm a big fan of this card. I think it's very strong. Trigger a friendly minion's death rattle twice. In Hunter, it's not that good, I don't think, because they don't really have access to good death rattles. Or at least the death rattles don't synergize too well with the deck. The DK, they don't have too many, but I think they have enough synergies to make it work. Mainly actually from the neutral eggs. Foul Egg already sees play in Demon Hunters, no problem. But I think you can also run Nerubian Egg when you're running this card. And I'm kind of like envisioning maybe a Frost DK, which runs both Starlet Eggs. And you slot this card in as well. The reason why I want Frost DK is because it's an aggressive deck, and if you get some early board stats, you can finish off with Burn quite easily. And they have the Refresh spell, so it's easier to combo this with the egg if you don't have like the egg on curve and this on curve. So you could go like egg refresh plus this, and it's quite strong. But imagine you go Foul Egg or Nerubian Egg early on, and then you play this on 4, trigger twice, 2 4/4s or 2 3/3s with a 3/4. It's a lot of stats. And if your opponent is forced to kill your egg to prevent you doing this, I don't think you're too sad, because that's just like really good early game board presence, and too much for your opponent to really do. So definitely potential. Obviously, other undead decks as well could run it. You could be looking at a deck, an unholy deck with Death Growl as well, to spread the Death Growls and then trigger them. Try and do some combos like that, but I think mainly the easiest way to do it is in Frost DK, just because they have access to Horn of Winter, and it's so much easier to combo effects. Even doing it on Thesaurian, it's really not too bad if you're in a pinch. You'd rather do it on the other things, but yeah. I think it's kind of a solid 4-drop. Maybe a slightly underrated from what I've seen people talk about it so far. Next, we have Hidden Meaning. This is a Hunter's Secret, 2 mana. When your opponent ends their turn with no mana, summon a random 3-cost minion. So there isn't really any Hunter Secret synergy in Standard right now, sadly. There's a lot of secrets, and some of the secrets are quite good, like the zombies. But there's really nothing else to help them along. So you're really, at the moment, you're just casting this for 2 mana. How good is it? 2 mana, you get a 3-drop. It's like okay, but your opponent can play around it later on in the game, if they just don't spend all their mana. The nice thing about this card really is that it triggers when your opponent ends their turn, so your minion effectively has charge or stealth, if you want to look at it like that, coming onto your turn. And it can always hit face or get to attack. But, I mean, you're paying 2 mana for a random 3-drop, and there are some stinkers in the 3-drops, that's for sure. So, without any specific secret synergy yet, it's probably not going to see play. It's not necessarily like a bad secret. It's fine. It just needs something extra to make it work, I think. And maybe it will see play in the future, but immediately, probably not. And finally, we have Hollow Hound. This is, again, a hunter and a Death Knight class card. If you're familiar with like the dual class cards from Scolomancy, they're not going to be the same pairings this time. I forgot to touch upon that earlier. They're going to be new pairings, but their pairings haven't been announced yet. We're going to see it as cards are revealed. This is Lifesteal Rush, also damages minions next to whomever this attacks. 6 mana, 3/6, Undead Beast. It's pretty powerful. You can kind of compare this to a combo that terrorized Standard about a year or so ago. Maybe 2 years ago. Which was... He's not in Standard anymore, is he? Of course he's not. Blademaster Samuro. Plus Apotheosis. Which was a pretty strong combo back then. Kind of like that combo in one card. For 6 mana. Doesn't affect the whole board, but it attacks minions adjacent and doesn't hit the first minion twice. So quite a bit weaker when I put it like that, but it's just one card to do it. You can hand buff this thing as well to make it do more. Might be quite strong in Blood Decay as a control tool. They do have access to No Muncher already. This does slightly better against wider board states. It's going to heal you for 9 immediately and clear maybe a bit more of their board. But against singular minions, it's going to be quite a bit worse. Like 3 attack on 6 mana isn't going to clear too much board-wise. So the Blood Decay is a bit of a maybe. For Hunter, I don't really see it too much. Like Hunter kind of wants to be aggressive. It might be fine if there's a mid-range Hunter deck that struggles a bit against aggro. They might want to put this in the deck just as a stabilization tool. They don't really have access to any good healing effects. So could see it in that sense. It does kind of mess with beast synergy. If you're trying to play a big beast deck with Banjo Saws and Faithful Companions and maybe a Sharon Sabers, maybe this is not a big enough pull from some of those effects. But there is some nice synergy with Harpoon Gun in that if you manage to dredge a Hollow Hound on curve, you can play this on for 4 mana. So Weapon into Hollow Hound is a curve. It looks quite strong, but it just depends what the board states are going to look like, whether this is good enough. Because if you're facing down tall minions, this really isn't going to do anything at all. If you're facing very tokeny decks, it's going to do a lot. So I think meta dependent. It looks kind of decent in the vacuum, but it might not be plugging a hole that the decks need. Blood Decays might just be perfectly happy playing No Muncher and Blood Boil. And they just don't need this kind of effect. There is some applications in other DKs though. Frost DK could run it, potentially. If they're struggling against aggression. Probably not. But it's an option. There's no rune requirement. So maybe there's some DKs that would have kind of liked to run a No Muncher but can't, so they're opting to play this instead. As some decent application again with hand buff DK. Giving this +2/+2 or buffing it with +4/+4 from this suddenly means you're renoing and clearing a lot of the board. So quite a good target for that. A bit better than No Muncher as well, I think, in general, because it's going to be able to completely destroy boards in a way. So maybe best home for it is the hand buff DK, and maybe it's going to take off this mini set. They're all the cards I wanted to talk about today. I'm going to do some more card reviews as the cards get revealed. But thanks for watching, guys, and let me know your opinions on these cards, what you think are hits and what ones are stinkers. See ya!